there is a lot of discussion with regards to how trade impacts people. But what about how it impacts women in particular? I am Hanna Norberg. I'm the founder of Trade Economista, where I'm an independent trade policy advisor. And I'm also the igniter of Trade Express, which is a network that aims to shine a light on awesome female trade experts from all over the world and through all walks of trade. Roberta and Jose at the WTO are meanwhile experts on trade for women, and they are co-authors on a new report that focuses on the role of trade for promoting women's equality. I am very grateful for this opportunity to discuss this report because it sets out to do something that I think has been sorely missing in the debate for trade policy, which is looking at the actual effects on the rules in place for those who work with them and who are affected by them. In this case, women.
Thank you, Anna. I'd like to start with a figure, 33%. This is the share of women working in firms that export in developing countries. But for firms that do not export, the share falls to 24%. And this is just one of the striking findings we have in the report on the relationship between trade, women, and gender equality.
So this finding highlights the importance of gender disaggregated data, which is often lacking and prevents the analysis of the impact of trade on women. For example, in the report, we use firm survey data, and we found that in countries such as Morocco, Romania, and Vietnam, women represent 50% or more of the workforce of exporting firms. For this report, we also created a new database which provides comparable employment data broken down by gender at the industry level for a large number of countries. In addition, we created the first ever database on explicit gender provision in regional trade agreements.
I love that that information is available. I love that. That's, so useful. So I don't work with the issue of trade and gender per se, but the three of us share the goal of making sure that decision-making is not just informed, but actually enlightened in the sense that it benefits from as wide and as a diverse palette of expert as possible, right? People from different parts of the trade chain, academia, practitioners, regulators, et cetera, different parts of the world, different cultures, and of course, different gender, right? So with the Trade Express, for example, we aim to bridge that gap by making it easier to get advice from those experts in thinking about trade policy, whether in the media, at conferences, on panels, or at negotiating tables worldwide. And so I would like to have your insights on what can diversity in the workplace accomplish.
So Jose and I work in the research division and the WTO, and this is a quite diverse group of people, not only from a gender perspective, also backgrounds and nationality. And this, in my view, adds a lot to the richness of issues we cover. Diversity is also important from an economic perspective. In the report, we show that countries that do not allow women to fully participate in international markets are less competitive internationally. And this is because they don't use their resources in the efficient way.
This gender consideration is also important in the context of COVID-19. Our recent analysis suggests that the pandemic is likely to hit women more than previous economic downturns. And so if you think about tourism, the garment exports, and retail, which have been severely disrupted, these are just some of the sectors where women are particularly active as employees or entrepreneurs, in particular in micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. So it's very important not to ignore this gender dimension in designing policies for economic recovery.
So Jose, you made a really great point there. What exactly is it that we can take to policy? What is it that policymaking can do, and what should we use policymaking to do?
Well, in a certain sense, what we argue in the report is that women can empower themselves through trade. But women are disadvantaged in the world market if policymakers do not remove the higher barriers to trade that women face compared to men. Higher tariffs in agriculture, high tariffs in textile. This means that women as consumers pay more for their goods when they buy these goods. But high tariffs in agriculture and textile also mean that women as employers or as workers in these sectors pay more for their inputs when they want to produce, so they're less competitive, and they face higher restrictions when they want to export. For the same reason, removing barriers in services trade and easing access to international markets for small micro and medium enterprises also will bring higher gains to women. And then there is, of course, a lot to do to improve women access to education, to finance, digital technologies. These policies are essential to ensure that no one is left behind, and in particular for the more vulnerable.
Governments would also do well to take advantage of 3 global trends that we identify in the report and that are creating new opportunities for women economic empowerment. And these 3 trends are: first, the rise in services; second, the expansion of global value chain; and third, the growing digital economy. The WTO has also a key role to play. There are ongoing talks related to agriculture, which employs a large number of women in developing countries, but also services, electronic commerce, and micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. The WTO is also a forum where members discuss their trade policy, including tariff and non-tariff barriers. So improving transparency on gender-related policy can help establish good practices and draw attention to the challenges that women face in participating in world trade.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you for a great report. It contains 3 very important parts. So first of all, information. You have taken the time and the effort to dive way into the data and sort out exactly what's going on. That expertise is very valuable. Secondly, you have used all this information to boil it down to something that's practical in terms of policy implications and that policymakers can have in mind when looking at how to design policy for greater gender equality. And also, being as you are at the WTO, you have the forum for discussing this and to actually bring this to fruition. And so great work so far, and best of luck with getting the last piece of the way. Thank you.
Maybe just one thing to add, that people can refer to the links we are providing with this video to find out more about trade and women. And for people looking for experts on trade, to have a look at the rich roster of trade experts.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.